Odyssey of the Dragonlords, had the party facing their first boss monster. This would be the Great Boar. Now, Great Boar fight. I wanted it to be super duper cool, so I obviously did not take the Great Boar from the adventure at face value. First and foremost, it was built for first level characters, and my guys started at level 3. And secondly, if you've got 6 PCs, every boss should have legendary actions. That's my opinion. So, in order to balance out that action economy, you got to give your bosses legendary actions. If it feels bad to call a level 3 boss legendary, you could call them Paragon actions. That's what Matt Mercer does, and everyone thinks it's cool. You could also take Mr. Beardy, Matt Colville's approach and do an action-oriented boss monster. Google the video; it's amazing. The guy is a former, well, he's played in every edition, but he played a lot of 4th edition, and a lot of his design and playstyle, I think, is still heavily influenced by like 2nd and 4th edition, which are 2 of my favorite editions. So I used all of that, but then I had also seen a video by Animated Spellbook that was like, what if we made our monsters more like Witcher monsters? And he talked about giving monsters all sorts of resistances, but to balance it out, you give them 1 or 2 vulnerabilities. And then you allow like knowledge checks to see if people know about it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I figured a boar piercing, right? Because boar spear is a thing. So I made it vulnerable to piercing, but I gave it resistance to just about everything else. Which seemed really smart. Except that my players used radiant damage, which I didn't give it resistance to, even though it was a celestial creature. Kind of goofed on that one. And it turns out almost all of them used piercing weapons. So it was pretty crazy. What was the most crazy thing about this fight was I accomplished what I wanted to, which was the boar came out. He was physically impressive. He ran up and he destroyed their NPC guides per the adventure. The adventure actually told me just kill them automatically using plot. Don't even roll attacks. I still had the boar attack, and he actually hit and killed them, showed the players just what he could do. Players got nervous, but they still kept fighting. Very quickly, though, they realized that they were hammering that shit. Now, the boar, as written, had an AoE, like, confusion gas attack. I guess his farts were, like, confusing or something. And that was kind of crappy, because in the first major boss battle, Hypatia the wizard and Philippocles the barbarian just stood around stoned and confused, and they missed out on the whole fight. They didn't even do cool shit like attack other players. They really just stood there doing nothing. Anytime you take away player agency, you take away fun. I understand that. At low levels, there's less ways to prevent that and remove that. So it basically was like, you two don't even get to play, which was kind of crappy. So I definitely should have gone for stuff like maybe a slowing effect, right? So they still get to do what they're going to do, but they're confused by the boar's presence and slowed down by the horrible stench of it, things like that. Always diminish instead of take away is probably a good way to put it. It's better to limp along than to have your turn skipped. So just something I would have done differently on that. But what really just threw this fight out the window into the neighbor's trash can was, I love these critical hit cards. I do. I loved extreme critical hits since I was a little baby playing Dungeons and Dragons in, like, middle school and high school. There's just something so exciting about extreme criticals and extreme fumbles that just adds so much to the game. And as a DM, it challenges me as well to adapt what is on the card to what is happening in the game. So Anastasia over here, she fired a 2nd level guiding bolt, which has power, trust me. And as she did, I drew the card, and the card pretty much was this card. Quadruple damage. And when she was done rolling that damage, there was nothing left of the boar. Okay? There was nothing left. It was amazing. But it was also very anticlimactic for everyone except Anastasia, because everyone had been planning all this cool stuff they wanted to do, and then there was really nothing they could do, because the fight was over, I think, in 2 rounds? Which, I mean, for 5th edition is pretty normal. I guess what I'm saying is, as cool as critical hit cards are, if you're gonna commit to these things, you have to be willing to own it, right? You can't be too upset that your guy got gimped or killed or whatever by an extreme critical hit card if you're also gleefully dealing out those same critical hits to the players. So it's very important to make that decision when you are using them. Understand that even the toughest, coolest boss could be laid low by RNGesus. And also keep in mind, when you are designing bosses and things like that, that sometimes when you go to make your own custom boss, it's not going to turn out as cool as you thought. So that's the 2 things that I learned from this session.